Hi, JK friends. It is Miss Elias here, and today we are going to talk about a special type of poem called haiku. Now, a haiku is a type of poem that follows special rules about number of lines and number of syllables in each line, kind of like a syllable recipe. So, every time you see a haiku, it's going to have 3 lines. Each line is going to have a certain number of syllables. The first line is always going to have 5 syllables. The second line is always going to have 7 syllables. And the third line will always have 5 syllables. I have that up on the screen, but I also built that out of Legos so that you can see 5, 7, 5. A fun way to think about a haiku is kind of like a syllable sandwich where the bread is a little bit too small for all of the yummy ingredients inside the sandwich. We have been learning about haikus in class. We've been learning about haikus together. And we first started learning about haikus back in December, when we were learning about our Earth. Now, I remember what our classrooms looked like when we were learning about our Earth. The JK Penguins decided to turn the dramatic play area into a jungle, and the JK Seahorses decided to turn the dramatic play area in their classroom into an ocean. And when we were learning about oceans and jungles, we learned some haikus, and we drew pictures about them. We counted and clapped the syllables to make sure that they followed that syllable haiku recipe of 575, and they all did. And we had a lot of fun drawing pictures of them. We also talked about haiku when we learned about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We had conversations about the work that he did to make the world a better place, and we wrote a special haiku about him, thinking about why he's someone that we admire. And then we also wrote our own type of special haiku that we called identity haiku, about ourselves, about why we feel good about who we are, why we feel proud to be ourselves. When we had our spiral unit performance, we had a very special treat from the JK Seahorses. They recited a beautiful poem about the Northern Lights for us, and they threw scarves in the air. So, those are some examples of the ways that we have learned about haiku all together. Now, I have been very excited to share some new haiku poems with you. Now, as we talked about in school, a haiku is usually about nature. That's the most traditional and most common subject for a haiku. However, I found some super fun haiku poems about all different types of things. This is a book called If It Rains Pancakes, Haiku and Lantern Poems, and it's by Brian P. Cleary and illustrated by Andy Rowland. Now, this book has 2 types of poems, haiku and lantern poems. Today, we are going to read the haiku poems. We're going to have another time where we learn about lantern poems because they are also super cool. Let's start with the first poem in this book. I was pretty excited to see that the first poem is called April because that's what month it is right now. It's April. So for this poem, we're going to read this poem in a little bit of a different way. We're going to check to make sure that it follows our haiku syllable recipe. We won't do this for every poem because it takes a long time and it's hard to understand what the poem is about. However, it is a great way to make sure that it's a haiku. So let's get started and look at the poem together. I see that the title of this poem is April. I'm checking. I see, yes, 3 lines. I'm looking and it's a little bit hard to tell how many syllables there are without hearing it out loud. So let's read the poem together while we count. Yellow tulips rise. Yup, that's 5. As if they're awakening. That's 7. From winter's slumber. That's 5. So, yes, that poem is definitely a haiku, but it was a little hard to understand what that poem is about when we read it like that. So, let's read it again and see if we can understand the poem a little bit better. April. Yellow tulips rise, as if they're awakening from winter's slumber. That was easier to understand. Let's read the rest of the poems like that. Watch out! My pet pig, Betty, in her full karate stance, performs the pork chop. Color me confused. Red always means stop, unless you're a bull. Then, just the opposite. Decisions. Spanish homework or a nap? Compromise. We'll call it a siesta. So, siesta is how we say nap in Spanish. So, I guess that's how we can do both at the same time, but probably not really. Outdoor concert. Wren chirps a chorus. Frogs croak their steady bass line. Nature's symphony. And I think that you can probably hear a little bit of nature's symphony out here. There are definitely some birds singing in the yard. Drifting. Grandma's screened-in porch. Crickets croon their lullaby as sleep summons me. City of brotherly lunch. Philadelphia, birthplace of America and tasty cheesesteaks. Delish. Cheese for Eloise, pepperoni for Tony. I love pizza day. I also love pizza day. Yummy. When something's so good, you want to taste it again. That's what burps are for? That poem is pretty silly. Reflection. Sunset on the lake, like a brilliant yellow road to a sinking ball. Autumn. Fall leaves crunching, crisp air, warm clothes, and the sound of a marching band. What if? If it rains pancakes, I'll need no umbrella, just syrup, fork, and plate. Snowy day. Are the falling white, fluffy puffs enough to give us the day off school? I remember thinking about that in the winter. Reversal. This poem is pretty funny. Noses smell. Feet run. But the opposite also is sometimes true. So let's think about that. We know that noses smell, there are smelling tools. We also know that feet run. We use them for running, but sometimes feet smell and sometimes noses run. Baby. Scream, pause, scream, pause, scream. How can such a tiny mouth create so much sound? Nature. Brown leaves, curled and dried, acorns, straw, and rich brown dirt. I should clean my room. The mind. Memory is like a room where tiny boxes hold our yesterdays. Lucky ducks. Ducks walk, swim, and fly. I walk, I swim a little, but planes make me sick. Haiku. When you've written one without enough syllables, you add words. Football. Zzz. On the other side of the pillow, that's where all the best dreams are found. So that is the last haiku in this collection of haiku and lantern poems. Next time, we're going to talk about what a lantern poem is and how we can tell that it's a lantern poem. I hope that you had a lot of fun remembering all the times that we talked about haiku when we were together at school. And I really hope that you enjoyed learning these new haiku poems with me because I had a lot of fun sharing them with you. Bye, JK friends. I hope you're having a great day and I miss you.